And the difference between Planet O and Planet One is actually thanks, but no thanks. Like I'm was kind of getting ready to leave. 8 months of windsurfing and reading books and drinking wine.
What was the most challenging part of getting things off the ground, and how long did it take? Welcome everyone to the next episode of In China Between Meetings with your host Marian Danka. I'm super excited to have a special guest today. There were a lot of buzz and rumors around opening a new space which is called Planet One, and I'm thrilled to have the founder of the space, Eric Oetting. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Marian.
So the first question would be simple one, but probably it takes a little bit more time to explain. What happened before Planet One? Where did you work? What businesses you started? How many you failed? Are there any still alive and successful?
Yeah, good question. So, let me think. Since the beginning, I've been an entrepreneur since I was like 15. So, how many have I actually started? Somewhere in the neighborhood of 8, 9, 10.
Mm-hmm.
And at least half of those in China. So, are there still ones around? Yes. There's still 2 of them around, actually. The last 2 entertainment businesses that I started, there's still some remnants of that. One was with it was AB InBev's subsidiary, like largest alcohol producer in the world, beer producer. Before they came to China, there was a Chinese subsidiary that had the rights to their whole portfolio, and I helped them set up the first B2C in China, and that was called Derefter, a Belgian beer bar. And so there's still one of those left in Beijing, which was sort of part of that whole idea. And also a previous entertainment company that I co-founded, that's also still around, which built that over several years and across 5 cities in China.
So now let's dive into the Planet One or Planet O. What was the inspiration behind opening the company?
Okay, so this is a fun one. Actually, I just had a really difficult experience with my previous company, and I had left China, and I spent some time in the Philippines, sort of decompressing the experience and what I was going to do next. And after 8 months of windsurfing and reading books and drinking wine, I decided that I had clarity and that I was going to exit China. And so I came back with a plan to just pack things up and finish things off and make an exit. And I wasn't back for 2 weeks, and then I received a call from Macquarie Bank, and they said, "Hey, do you remember when you approached us like 10 years ago with your entertainment concept? Would you be willing to meet and have a discussion?" And I said, "Okay, this is kind of interesting, but sure." So we met, and they said, "So we really like your entertainment concept. Would you be willing to build across 13 of our shopping malls, and we'll give you half the money?" And I was like, wow, thanks, but no thanks. Like I was kind of getting ready to leave. And they were like quite persistent, and at the time real estate developers still actually were desperate to find ways to drive traffic because e-commerce had eaten up their businesses. And so they were really persistent and tried to talk me into it. And we had several meetings. And finally, at the end, they were like, "Okay, so we understand you won't build your old, company concept with us. Is there anything else that you've been working on that you'd be interested to do?" And that kind of opened the gate for the beginning of Planet O. I said, "Well, actually, yes, there there is a little something I've kind of been thinking about. And that was what lit the fuse, which ultimately, several steps later, grew into the blossoming of Planet O.
Who came up with the name? And what is the difference? Lots of people asking, is it Planet O or Planet One?
Planet One, yeah. So actually, the name Planet O was kind of more of a placeholder that we just sort of started out the PPT on. O is just for my last name, Oetting. So we just kind of, put it on there, Planet O. And during the whole process and fundraising pitches and stuff, we called it Planet O. And it stuck. It just kind of stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is also the parent company, which, does all the transactions globally with all of our different partners and stuff. This is, how we house the IP and do all this. So, and the difference between Planet O and Planet One is actually, Planet One is the location. And it's just the location. Once we did our JV with NetEase, so they wanted to also add something to the name. So we added the NE for NetEase. So it's Planet O plus NetEase. It's Planet One. So that's actually the name of the joint venture company between Planet O and NetEase.
And continue this topic, NetEase, what is the role? You mentioned this is a JV. Why are they interested in this space?
So when part of the DNA of Planet O is about collaboration and taking all these different components of, the best experiences and the best tech and, bringing them all together in one space. So during that process, I also wanted to find the best content, and Beat Saber at the time was really hot, or at least it had started to be really hot. And so I contacted them and I asked them if they wanted to have a gateway into the China market, because I'm planning to launch this center and we could collaborate. And they said, oh, that'd be great, but actually we already have a partner. It's NetEase. And I said, great, would you mind putting me in touch, because I'd like to have your content anyways. So got in touch with NetEase about Beat Saber content, and then they found out what we were doing, and they thought it was really interesting because they wanted a way to showcase their product to Chinese consumers as well, because their business is IP and content only. They don't really know about offline. So they wanted to find a way that they could give a premium experience to consumers, and somebody that knew how to do location-based operations. So that's kind of the core of the cooperation. And then of course, the cooperation for us is they have tons of content that we can, use from their portfolio. We're also the launch pad for all their new games and stuff coming out, and they have massive media all across China as well. So, this is all sort of part of the collaboration.
What was the most challenging part of getting things off the ground, and how long did it take?
It was quite like a long runway from beginning until launch, because it began, this whole thing, in 2016. That's when Macquarie Bank had contacted me, and so it started me on that path of developing the Planet O concept. But as I said before, Macquarie offered half the funding, so I still need to come up with the other half, which drove me to even set up another company in between to try to help raise those funds, which ultimately was the connection between where we wound up finding our funding, which was through property developers, And so the company that I set up in between was the China arm of Rock Art Asia, which is a themed entertainment development company that's doing the design and everything. And we showcased the Planet O concept as this managed sort of franchise, if you will, that developers could purchase and then put it into their mall, or we could do a custom thing for them through Rock Art. And that took a process of like a year and a half from that point to getting to the point where we actually ran into somebody that said, hey, actually, instead of just a project, I'm interested in the whole thing. So they kind of took over the place of McQuarrie and wanted to go in directly and help us with full funding. So, which was Oetting Group, the hypermarket group, which also it's massive actually. I think they own something like 1,500 companies globally, which the Oetting Group itself, an arm of that is Oetting, which had like 400 properties, shopping malls globally, which is the one that ultimately like made the investment in us. So this took a couple years. That was like 2018, so 2 years later. And then from 2018, we started moving on getting the location and everything in place. And it took quite a while to nail down the location, because we had also found several locations and then went through negotiations with them, which took several months. And on more than one location, we got to the end, and then because real estate developers were changing rapidly, because they're all in such pain, that they would just cut the entire executive board. And so everybody that we were dealing with was gone.
You need to build it from scratch.
Yeah. So it happened on more than one occasion. And then coronavirus hit, so with like another, several months of delay. And then I was also stuck out of the country. So, but we kept moving it along the whole time. Actually, our deals with NetEase and Formula One were both signed during the coronavirus outbreak, and I was stuck in the Philippines while we finished those deals.
That was 2019?
2020.
2020.
Yeah, beginning of 2020.
So basically it took 5 years from idea to launch.
Yes.
Oh, that's a ride.
Yes.
What's Planet One today?
So
for those who doesn't know and never heard about the place, can you just introduce what you can do, why you need to go there?
Yeah. So Planet One is our flagship location. So it's the first location-based entertainment hub of Planet O. And what we do there is a lot of things actually, but we begin with gaming. And what's really special about the gaming experience that we have is we have a mixed reality, or like an XR experience. We capitalize on the spectator element of gaming. So now, and especially with high-tech gaming, so virtual reality and augmented reality, this sort of thing, instead of it just being a one-directional sort of experience for the user, it now becomes a holistic experience. So the spectator, the audience, can also join in the game by seeing you in third-person perspective while you are immersed in first-person perspective. So to simplify that, it's sort of like if you were watching a soccer game or a football game, if you could imagine the camera angle was of people just looking at their feet and kicking the ball, and it was jumping from camera angle to camera angle of each player, 30 different people's feet jumping around, you'd have no idea what was going on. But instead, the way that we film a game is the pitch, and you see everybody out on the field running together. It makes a lot more sense because you can experience the game like that. So that's what we do for high-tech gaming. And and then we also have all other sorts of things running around this ecosystem, immersive events, art and maker oriented activities, and education. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. If you haven't, guys, been to the place, you need to visit definitely. Next one, about how do you make money? What's the business model behind the space?
So this is a good question as well. We actually have a rather complex business model, but on the surface, it seems pretty straightforward. You walk in, you buy a ticket, you go in and you play games, have food and beverage. But we also, on our other layers, we collaborate with technology companies to bring IP and hardware to China, for one. So we act as a gateway for those companies. Also collaborating with companies that are in China already, but looking for a showcase to their consumers. So let's talk about like a computer company, for example, that has currently, they have 90% of their commerce online. So all their sales are online, but maybe 10% are coming from their offline locations. But they have a ton of overhead. They have these installations in shopping malls, which don't make any money, but they need to have it there just so people can come in and see their product. They have to pay for the management, they have to pay for the salespeople and the rent and everything. But in the end, people come in, they get to experience the equipment, but that experience is ruined by a high-pressure salesperson that's like, hey, you hurry up and buy this. And so they wind up ruining the experience. So we collaborate with companies like that to showcase their experience without a high-pressure, sales. So people just get to experience something that's awesome. If they like it, when they go home, they can also buy it. And even through us, we are the distributor for some of that tech as well.
You have Formula One simulators, you have drone simulators. Those things just for fun, or companies also can use it for launching projects or showcasing some stuff? Well, I think you mentioned as well that people actually can hire top talents over there.
That's right. So a couple things going on with those types of experiences. One is we are the distributor for some of the hardware as well. Two, the pros will actually come into the space from time to time and do races there, which will also televise and broadcast out. And then thirdly, if you have interest in these type of games and you go there and you play it, we also, part of Planet O's software is capturing your performance and giving that back to the users. But we're also, taking your experience points, if you will, and those companies that we collaborate with can see who's the best in the league. And if you're good enough, you can actually earn a spot into the pros. And that's one of the reasons why those companies collaborate with us too, because they're trying to find those grassroots heroes that are, really great, because especially in eSports, those professionals can come from anywhere. So we're a gateway for that as well.
That's super exciting. And one thing about so far it looks like it's a new concept, and not many companies are doing this, and this is one of the first probably locations in China.
Yes.
So when definitely it's attracting lots of attention and engagement, and I believe that bigger companies will look into it as well, and then the competition will come, and then probably that's the future of space. We have more companies or spaces like this. So how to stay relevant, how to stay competitive, and how do you see this industry from 5-10 years from now?
Okay. Number one, yes, I definitely see this as the future of space, especially in new retail. I think what we're doing is crafting that next generation. And especially in China, copies come really quick. You got to move fast. Actually, part of the DNA of Planet O is is ready for this. This is exactly what we hope to happen. We can't wait for people to copy us. And in fact, we are in that value chain to supply people that want to copy us. So, which is where we are exclusive distributors for a lot of the tech and a lot of the experience that we showcase. So when somebody's ready to copy us, they can just buy it from us or one of our distributors. So as those places of competition roll out, ultimately their products will be flowing through us as well.
What about the future expansion? Are you planning to open Planet 2, Planet 3, Planet 4?
At this point, the name will still be either just Planet 1, if we're in collaboration with NetEase for all those locations, or Planet O. We won't actually name it 1, 2, 3, 4, but yes, we plan to open a lot more. We also plan to connect those centers together digitally so that people can compete no matter where they are. And also, we've got some other really cool stuff in the pipeline. Imagine that you're playing online on a game or on your mobile playing a game and having, some kind of cool experience, but you get to go to a special world where you can have a different kind of gameplay, or you can redeem points that you've received, and you get to come into a location and actually experience that in a new type of world.
Wow.
So we definitely have some rollout plans in the pipeline, and I think that Planet O is very clearly, it's a platform. That's the type of business that we are. We're a physical platform. I see it as, there's mobile gaming, there's PC gaming, there's console gaming, and then there's a physical location-based gaming, which rolls into the next question: what do I see the future as? I see in the future, I believe that tech companies, if I was a large tech company that I've been amassing huge amounts of money through all the things that we're doing online and virtual product, that on the opposite side of things, real estate developers have been suffering really badly and don't have any content at all to drive people. I, as a tech company, would be looking at how do I drive my digital content into the physical, so that both I can have lasting wealth and building whatever empire that they're building, but also because the price that real estate is cheaper, and it just makes sense. I mean, Netflix already started it in 2019. At the end of 2019, they opened their first physical location, their own theater in New York. So now Netflix is not only the studio and the online streaming that's making all their own content, but now they're driving it directly to the physical as well. I think that this is the wave of the future. That's probably 5 years down the road or so.
Thank you so much. We wish best of luck to your entrepreneurial journey, and wish great success with Planet One and with the future expansion. And everyone who hasn't checked it yet, please do check it out. It's an amazing place. They have KTV, they have Formula One, they have drones, laser tags coming up soon. You have bar with the robot arm. It's an amazing place. And that was the episode with Eric Oetting, founder and CEO of Planet O. In China Between Meetings. Please subscribe, follow, comment, likes,